the cloud. What's going on? Super excited. We are in Mindset 6. If you've sat through all 5 and now 6, I'm extremely proud of you, excited for you, and grateful that you made it to this point in the journey. Okay, just a few housekeeping things. If you've made it to this point, first thing is you should be tracking your meals and your fitness. Again, I know that we're coming to the stretch. People get extremely tired and they start yawning and they start taking off. And I'm saying, no, kick it up. Let's keep going, keep pushing, keep monitoring, looking at those things. Again, you don't want to go into autopilot with bad habits. You would rather go into autopilot when you begin to see, man, these habits are working, they're consistent, and I'm starting to enjoy them. So make sure you're consistent with your meal planning. Make sure you're consistent with your fitness so that you can get the maximum amount of transformation, okay? One of the other housekeeping pieces are your progress pics. Again, I know how easy it is to slip through the cracks, but you should be consistently turning in progress pics. And if you have not turned in your last progress pic, please make sure you submit that to the proper channels and send us an update. We want to see how you're doing. We want to know if we need to make any modifications, and it'll allow you and us to make sure that you get the most out of this challenge and this transformation. Last thing, major thing is this: stay connected and in contact with your encouragement partner. One of the things that's very interesting is that oftentimes, the people who do the best in this transformation challenge are very connected, and they become somewhat of friends and colleagues and partners with the encouragement partner. The people who struggle the most are people who are silent, and they don't have anyone cheering them on. They don't have people to share victories with, and they don't have people to reflect on a mindset session with. And so we just want to make sure that as you come to the end, come to the close of the 45-day, that you are day to day, or at least whatever touch points with your partner. Okay, that's good. Let me get into my story. I love always jumping into my story. Okay. I mentioned before, I am a Dallas native, not a Cowboy fan or hater. And, I grew up just with a sense of going and doing the same things all the time, right? Would love to go to the same movie theater, would love to go to the same corner stores, always enjoyed going to the same parks, and especially love going to the same restaurants. There was a certain restaurant that I enjoyed that served steak and all kinds of things at a buffet, and I don't eat most of 99% of those things anymore, but I loved it. And I would just always go to the same thing. I knew my go-tos, right? The 1, 2, 3. And I'm just like, okay, I can build my whole day around it, right? And what I realized about myself is that I'm extremely slow to jump into change, is that I don't particularly like change. It takes me a little bit more to warm up to doing something new. I'm married, and my wife will be like, you gotta try something new. I'm like, I don't want to try something new. I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been doing it for 30 years, right? And what I realized about that mindset is that, I really don't like starting anything new, because when you start something new, it takes you out of the habits and routines and puts you in a place of the safety. It takes you out of the safety of your routines. And now it puts you in a new place of discomfort, and it puts you in a new place of tension and uncertainty, right? When we think about this idea of life, the relationship, and we talked about this, that we are in relationship with things, that we're in relationship not just with people, relationship, right? Connection and then direction, right? We're in relationship not just with people, but we're in relationship with food. We talked about this the first 2 sessions, right? We're in relationship with our minds and our stories. We talked about that session 3 and session 4, okay? And we're relationship with our souls, okay? And if you went through the last session, relationship, we talked about how it's necessary for us to have a growing, healthy relationship with our souls. And here's what I want to put before you today as you watch this session, okay? That you were made with and for a purpose in the world, right? I want you to hear that again. I know that sounds a little preachy and that sounds there's a little self-affirming, but I want you to really think about that you, say your name, me, right? BJ, were made for a purpose in the world and for the world, okay? One of my favorite kind of movies growing up was A Wizard of Oz, right? And in The Wizard of Oz, there's a story about this young girl named Dorothy, and she gets swept up in this tornado. If you haven't seen it, too bad. You're about 40, 50 years late, so don't worry about it. Go look at it, right? She gets swept up in this tornado, and all of a sudden, she doesn't know where she is. She's from Kansas, and all of a sudden, she's swept up in this tornado, and she wakes up, and she's in this new land with talking animals and talking flowers and this yellow brick road, right? And she connects with these group of people, and they're lost, and they're trying to make their way to someone called the wizard who's going to explain things to them. And as they begin to go together, the lion, the Tin Man, Dorothy, the dog, Toto, right? And the straw man, I forgot the crow, Scarecrow's name. They're going down this thing and they find themselves in these difficulties along the way. By the time they get to the wizard, this person who's going to tell them who they are, they realize that the wizard is nothing more than another human being behind a curtain trying to manipulate the people to show that he's greater than what he is, right? And here's what you learn from Dorothy and from these characters. That what they thought they were after, which is to learn meaning, purpose, why they were there, and they thought it was going to come from a person, right? They believed that if I could just get with a special person who says they can tell me about myself, then I would discover myself, right? What you learn about this movie and what you learn from this movie is that they do not discover purpose from a person, but they discover purpose from taking the journey and the difficulty of the discomfort of who they are in this situation, right? Like, again, they didn't know who they were and what they were bringing into the world until they began to take this journey of discomfort, right? Here's the truth. Last week I talked about, in session 5, I talked about how we are souls with a body, that BJ is a soul with a body. I'm expressing myself in a body, right? Well, if I am a soul with a body, not a body with a soul, right? It now means that I now have a purpose that supersedes my body, right? Now, it doesn't mean that my purpose is separate from my body, but I have a purpose stamped on myself, my soul, right? The essence of who I am, the spirit person of who I am, that transcends my actual physical body. And I want you to think about this. When we move out of the realm of just saying, man, I just want to eat healthy to be healthy and experience transformation, or I would just want to do the mental work of being a better version of myself. But then when we stop to say, man, I have a purpose, and that all the difficulty in my life is it not just because it's difficult, but now all the difficulty in my life allows me to discover myself and my purpose, which is stamped on my soul and can't be taken away, right? We are discovering who we were made to be through the difficult, right? Through the difficulty, okay? Here's what's challenging, okay? The most challenging thing about purpose is that purpose and growing in who you are, in your purpose, will not come just because it came, right? Purpose only comes because you make a choice. I choose. We choose to take the journey of discovering who we actually are, right? And the reason why I say this and how this relates to your total transformation is. Sometimes I think that we want to become a better version of ourselves and let somebody else choose, right? Just let them decide. Let them give us the best practices and the best understandings. And we never really want for ourselves that we have to choose, right? But in order for you to understand purpose, you are going to have to choose. You have to decide that the person that you need to become, you are going to make a consistent decisions that's going to lead to you becoming a better version of yourself, right? The reason why it's challenging is because this journey often comes with discomfort, right? And this is what I wrote. Growth will always create for us a measure of discomfort that comfort and complacency cannot match, right? I want you to think about this. I want you to think about a baby, okay? And when a child is conceived in the womb, it's a little bitty thing. But as it grows up, it's growing up in this water-based thing, okay? Have you ever seen a child like in this water-based thing called the womb? Now, as they're in this water-based thing called the womb, they're getting comfortable, they're growing bigger, they are growing limbs, and their brains are working in ways they can't, they kick, do all kinds of things, right? And then one day, 9 months later, once they've gotten accustomed to this warm, kind of like this liquid that just kind of comes down and it just can happen and grow, right? One day they look up and they are slipping out of this thing into what's now called the air, and they are no longer submerged in water, right? Yeah, I think this is why babies don't have a lot of consciousness, because if you knew that you were leaving a womb out of fully consumed with liquid and fluid and water into the thin air, you would actually think that you were dying, right? And it's because to grow, to change into the version of you, the purpose version of you, you and I have to experience discomfort in order to grow to the maturation or the presence of who we actually are supposed to be, right? When we want to grow, when we think about growing in who we are, here's what growing means, right? Growing means that there's a period of grief, that there was a person that you were that you can no longer be, right? That you have to emotionally feel something, that something changed, something's gone. And now that period of grief settles in, right? There's a new education, right? When you think about growth and change, you're not able to just operate in the same ways that you once were able to operate, but now there is a new education. You're being educated into something that was very different or even additive of to where you were, right? But it's not just education. Growth creates what's now called a new application, right? And now that the habits in your life, you think about the things that you're doing now and the practices that we've been calling you to do for the last, how many days, right? You have been consistently practicing new habits, and they're routines that you created over the last few weeks that many of us have never done in our entire lives, right? And now we find ourselves growing into this thing, in this new place of being unfamiliar. I want to start closing with this, but I want you to think about this. When we take this journey of purpose, right? And we take this journey of growth and discomfort, and we finally find ourselves in this place that we say, okay, I'm going to give myself to purpose. I have a purpose. I want to give myself to growth. And now we find ourselves in these new places and new relationships, being called to new things that we've never experienced before. And for the first time in our lives, we can't go back. Because remember what I said, that in order for us to be who we're supposed to be, we have to make a choice, right? We think that the ways that we'll be able to stay in this place is through knowledge. I said, if I could just get more knowledge, I'll be able to continue on in this journey of what we call faith, right? But if I knew, you described to me someone who was chasing me with a weapon, and you just gave me the knowledge and the truth of what that weapon would do with me, it would only make me more fearful. It would only terrify me. It would not encourage me to move any further, right? This is what I want you to hear me say, and I want you to think about this. When you're walking by faith, knowledge isn't enough. Because though you may know what's true, it will not give you the courage to pursue something consistently in a way that you don't stop, right? Here's what you need, okay? If knowledge isn't enough, what is? Love. Love is. I want you to hear me say that again. If knowledge is not enough, right? What is? Love. Love is enough. What about failure, right? Well, there is a passage in the Bible, and this is what it says. It says, and love will never fail. I want you to think about that. The greatest fear of human beings is that they'll fail. And that when they get to certain places in life where they're walking by faith and they don't know where they're going and they don't know how they got here, one of the greatest things that we fear is that we're going to fail. But here's the thing. If you and I, me and you, embracing our purpose, walking through discomfort to discover ourselves, moving deeper into this idea of faith, here's the thing. Love will carry us on, right? How do we become a transformed person? How do we experience life in a way that begins to even inspire other people, right? We have to trust something bigger than ourselves. That we're not going to make it trying to do this on our own. That we need a connection with our God. We need love to grow us. And we have to see these areas and aspects of discomfort as revealing things about us and courage we would have never known. Here's what I want you to do. What are the areas where you need to love more? What are the areas where you need to walk by faith? What are some areas where you're being paralyzed by fear? What are some areas where you're trying to turn back and not decide? What are some areas where you realize, man, I have grown and I would have never known this was true about me, but I want to give myself to a greater sense of purpose. I want you to reflect on those questions. And as you do, have a conversation with your partner about some of the most powerful things that you've heard in this session. Okay, bye y'all.